As we already know, Gege has proved himself to be the biggest Gojo hater after the Kit Kat incident, and then the events occurring in the latest chapters. Instead of spoiling it for you, we recommend you to read the recent chapters and see how the plot armor actually works. Most of the time, the main character of an anime has a plot armor. The author pulls some strange tricks to help the main character shine even more. However, Gege believes that his story should feature either one of the most well-written villains of the modern era or the strongest plot armor in the history of anime for his villain. Spoiler warnings for the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. At this point, Gege has turned Sukuna into someone who can even outsmart the math teacher. No matter what quadratic integration the teacher puts in front of Sukuna, he will always manage to pull out an answer that he hasn't used since the Heian era. Gojo himself admitted that Sukuna is the strongest of all curses, and not even the strongest of the sorcerers could defeat him. That being said, Gojo claimed that he would still be able to defeat Sukuna even after he consumes all 20 fingers. Unfortunately, this is not what happens, and now that the doors of Gojo is back are closed permanently, let's try to make sense of the theory Gege tried to implement. If you are a Sukuna fan and hate Fraud Joe, or a Gojo fan and hate Fraud Kuna, there will be something for everyone in this video. If you're liking the content so far, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's battle out in the comments below. My name is TK. Let's get into some anime. Let us quickly summarize the events of the battle between the strongest sorcerer of this era versus the strongest sorcerer in history. Gojo makes a preemptive strike and hits Sukuna with his hollow purple before the battle even begins. Thanks to Sukuna's extraordinary reflexes, he was able to dodge the attack. Barely, otherwise those 17 long chapters would have ended in a second. Whether you love the ending or you hate it, one thing everyone agrees on is that the fight was legendary. It is safe to assume that Gojo vs Sukuna will break the internet when its anime version is released. It will also break the soul of mappa artists, but we will also discuss that some other day. The fight starts with back-to-back attacks by both of them, resulting in the destruction of the area around them. Seeing that the attacks aren't leading the battle anywhere, Sukuna uses domain amplification that he hasn't used since the Heian era to counter Gojo's limitless ability. Meanwhile, all the other sorcerers were watching this fight via livestream. Those same sorcerers, unknown by them at the time, would soon be entering in the most difficult fight of their lives. Both sorcerers then expanded their domains simultaneously, resulting in a stalemate as their domains canceled each other out. At this point, we all knew that Gojo's domain was the strongest domain ever to exist. Only this time, Gojo's up is against the love of Gege's life. So obviously Sukuna manages to break down Gojo's domain with his slashing blades. This changes everything as Sukuna's domain has become the strongest domain since the Heian era now. Sukuna's slashes are now hitting Gojo one after another, and since Sukuna's domain has no enclosed barrier and extends all the way back to the Heian era, the only option the Gojo has is to teleport himself out. But since his domain just got destroyed, he can't use the curse technique right away. Just when Sukuna thinks that he has already gained the upper hand, Gege decides to throw a bone at Gojo by letting him freely move inside the domain. Not only that, but Gojo even manages to attack Sukuna. He not only uses the reverse curse technique at full speed to heal the wounds from the slashes, but also takes an offensive stance. He does so by using a simple domain. If you still don't know, a simple domain is like a replica of an actual domain. If his limitless domain is like Messi or Ronaldo, the simple domain is like Mbappe and Haaland. Not at that level yet, but good enough for normal usage. The effects of simple domain only apply to Gojo, but with this he is able to negate Sukuna's sure hit effect. Doing this while using the reverse curse technique is truly amazing. Sukuna is impressed by the brilliance of this move, but then Gojo switches off his reverse curse technique. After taking heavy injuries and almost losing the fight, Gojo surprises him by using red on not Sukuna, but the shrine itself. He did not switch off his reverse curse technique, but uses to recover his exhausted curse technique. Yuta explains to others that if anyone other than Gojo tries to do this, they will fail miserably. Sukuna tries to counter by expanding the range of his malevolent shrine to the maximum, but Gojo expands his domain one more time. Only this time, Gojo switches the internal and external conditions of the barrier. Now the domain cannot be broken from inside. Seeing Gojo cook inspires Sukuna to start cooking as well. The duel starts on equal footing this time, but Sukuna then shocks Gojo by turning off his sure hit effect and purposefully avoiding landing a hit. Sukuna knows that only Gojo and the ones touching him are unaffected by his infinite void. So the moment they come in contact, Sukuna expands the effective range and increases the power of his binding vow. He increases the power of his domain outside the infinite void while protecting himself by being in contact with Gojo inside. Sukuna then crushes the strongest domain once again with the slashes that are most powerful since the Heian era. Gojo then breaks contact using Falling Blossom emotion and tries something else. He takes the battle to the nano level. He launches his domain once again, but this time it's smaller than the brain of those people who claim that the One Piece and Naruto do not have fillers. One's body cannot survive in such tiny spaces, but since Gojo was locked in the prison realm, he got accustomed to it. The stream viewers are impressed with Gojo bringing out new, out-of-the-box techniques that haven't been used before. But what's even more impressive is Sukuna defeating all those techniques with his centuries worth of experience. Gojo has realized that Geigi simply wants to rise Sukuna, so while Sukuna attacks his domain from the outside, Gojo keeps attacking Sukuna's shrine from the inside, so he also faces the humiliation of having his domain broken. Gojo's plan works, as Sukuna's domain gets broken, which has never happened before. Gojo refills his curse energy quickly, but Sukuna learns the skill as well since he has been a very quick learner since the Heian era. At this point, Gojo is wondering why Sukuna isn't using the 10 Shadows technique or Maharaga inside the domain. They both activate their domains once again, and the same happens again, resulting in both the domains shattering at the same time. Gojo realizes that the one who activates his domain first will have an advantage, so he quickly activates his domain as 0.0001 seconds faster than Sukuna, and manages to destroy the shrine while his infinite void is still active. Sukuna's domain has finally been countered by Gojo. Now that Gojo has outsmarted Sukuna, he decides to use the second layer of his plot armor by summoning Daddy Maharaga. Sukuna complains to his daddy about Gojo bullying him, so Maharaga quickly adapts to Gojo's domain and destroys it. Gojo and Sukuna have now canceled each other's domains 5 times. Sukuna has been taking the hits all this time to buy time for Maharaga to adapt, but Gojo wonders why he isn't exhausted by now. Turns out, Sukuna wasn't the one taking all that damage, it was Megumi's soul. Both Sukuna and Gojo have used up their domains and cannot rely on it anymore, as it would damage their brains even further. Technically they can heal the damage, but Geigi wants the fight to move forward, so we shouldn't ask any technical questions, otherwise it won't make any sense. Gojo attacks Sukuna with a limitless punch that is much stronger than an ordinary punch, but Sukuna takes a hit head on so Maharaga can get adapted to it. Now Gojo knows that he has 3 hits to finish off Sukuna, while Sukuna knows that he only needs to survive 3 hits. Gojo goes for the first attack, followed by blue and then red, but Sukuna uses domain amplification to minimize the damage. The red hasn't hit Sukuna yet as Gojo plans to circle around the building and attack from behind. Gojo then uses Black Flash on Sukuna, and at this point, Gojo would have won the battle if it was a one-on-one. Maharaga appears again and has already adapted to Limitless, so he and Gojo are on equal footing now. Gojo now has to fight 2 strong enemies at once, but he's not worried about it since he is the strongest. However, Sukuna is not a coward who would let Gojo fight a 2-on-1 battle. Sukuna has his own self-respect. Therefore, he summons Fusion Beast Agito to bury the last bit of self-respect and make it clear to Gojo that it's actually a 3-on-1 fight. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering how Sukuna managed to tame Maharaga when no one before him was able to, including Megumi, could do so, then let us share with you how he did that. Sukuna has a known secret way of taming Maharaga. He has noticed since the Heian era. Unfortunately, manga readers or anime watchers, or even Geigi, do not know the secret. Consider it the 3rd layer of Sukuna's plot armor. Thanks to this plot armor, or just purely Sukuna's incredible intellect, Sukuna doesn't have to worry about anything except for that one hollow purple. He's intelligent enough to understand that one more hollow purple attack will surely send him back to Geigi's bed. Therefore, he mans up and hides behind Maharaga and Agito, and only attacks when Gojo can't counterattack. Sukuna notices that Gojo is about to activate purple, so he begs his daddy to use Distant Flash, which cuts off Gojo's right arm. Now Gojo has 1 less arm and is against 3 opponents, but bro couldn't care less about that. He uses blue and black flash to finish off Agito. Within 41 seconds, Gojo should be able to use purple again. For the first time in 1,000 years, Sukuna is getting tense. Gojo reverses his arm back and continues the fight. Sukuna notices that a spark appears for a split second when Gojo activates his technique. He lets Maharaga face the red as he has already adapted to it, but he then realizes that Gojo is planning to merge red and blue. Sukuna asks Daddy to stop it from merging, but Maharaga's adaptation backfires. Sukuna tries to fire a water spear at red, but Gojo eliminates it, and the purple hollow technique activates. With that, the whole of Shinjuku is destroyed. Gojo is slightly injured while Sukuna is heavily injured, and at this point, it would seem that Gojo has won. Unfortunately, the next chapter shows Gojo reuniting with Geto. Gojo's upper half lies on the ground, while his lower half is still standing. Sukuna explains that what he needed from Mahoraga was a model of how to tear through Gojo's infinity. He then tried to expand the range of his slashing technique, but the target wasn't Gojo. It was a fixed space that he was aiming for. Everything within that space becomes his target. Gojo's infinity also lies in that space, so even though it was an impossible technique to pull off, Sukuna managed to do so. He has been planning to pull off this technique for quite some time with the help of Mahoraga. A lot of Gojo fans would say that Geigi pulled this out of nowhere, and Sukuna fans say it is simply brilliant writing. If you're seeing this as an impartial viewer, what do you think from an objective standpoint? Well, let's see if you'll change your mind once we explain how Sukuna was able to pull this off. As of chapter 255, we learned the method that Sukuna used to kill the strongest sorcerer of this age, a binding vow. A binding vow in Jujutsu Kaisen is a pact made with Jujutsu that creates certain conditions for the user or making an agreement with others. Think of them as contracts one makes with themselves or another sorcerer. As we know in real life, a broken contract can result in either severe legal or monetary consequences for an individual. A binding vow made with oneself usually sets a particular restriction in exchange for a benefit, such as greatly increasing curse energy output, but making it riskier to use a certain technique. In Sukuna's case with Gojo, Sukuna used the world cutting slash that was capable of bypassing Gojo's infinity. Normally for this move, he would just need to make a hand seal with 2 hands. After ending up with just 1 hand after Gojo's hollow purple technique, Sukuna imposed a binding vow that made all subsequent world cutting slashes require the use of the hand sign, an incantation, and having to point directly at his target in order to, just this once, use the world cutting slash instantaneously to split Gojo in 2. This does show that Sukuna was so desperate to defeat Gojo that he permanently changed the way that the world cutting slash was activated going forward. So Sukuna was in fact not holding back against Gojo, which means if he were to activate it now, even Yuta enhanced Gojo, not being used to that body, might be able to easily see it coming and dodge it. So basically, we get to know that Gojo overpowered the 3 strongest enemies alone, and during the whole fight, Gojo was the one in charge. However, Sukuna did not transform into his true self, which could be either because Gojo wasn't strong enough to activate his full form, or because his full form could not be used or wasn't available at that time. Moreover, Sukuna was overpowered in this fight, but not outsmarted, as he was following the plan he had all along. It is implied that Sukuna used all the information he could from this time in Yuji's body and then moved on to Toji's-san, Megumi's body. You would expect a lot more from the son of Toji, but what can we say? Let's make more sense of this ending. Sukuna couldn't cut through a piece of glass, so he decided to put the glass in a box and then cut the box. That way, the glass inside would magically disappear and then get cut in half. Those who have been watching anime for a long time would have a hard time making sense of it. Many fans are making their own theories to make sense of this last move. Defeating Gojo may not be the worst outcome, and the way he executed after letting him dominate him for over 15 chapters is amazing. However, the way Sukuna keeps creating new moves that he has been hiding since the Heian era is a bit strange to some viewers and to some manga readers. Even after Gojo's death, the other sorcerers jump at him with a perfect plan, but each time Sukuna brings out some random plot armor ability that he has been hiding since the Heian era. Is what some viewers would say, and some others would just chalk it up to brilliant writing by Geigi. Geigi is the one who made this fictional world, yet a lot of fans believe that he is having trouble with the rules he created himself. He overpowered Gojo to the point where defeating him sounded so difficult that he had to rely on Mahoraga. He's doing the same thing with Sukuna, so at this point, any death for Sukuna as well would not make sense, and the Sukuna fans will have the same emotion as the Gojo fans. Since the Gojo fight, each chapter has a new character giving their all and cornering Sukuna to the point where it seems that Sukuna might be defeated. But then, he would smile and bring out some random ability. At least we'll get some great action scenes though. The majority of the fans think that it could have been done in a better way. But let us know what you think about Gojo's defeat through the space-timey thingy in the comment section below. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. My name is TK. Thanks for watching. 挽回千本桜影吉